Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this glorious and beautiful day that you have given us. We are so thankful for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Help us to make wise decisions for the Cherokee Nation. Forgive us of all of our sins. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Meredith Crayley. Here. Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Julia Coates.
Here.
Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Here.
Janelle Fulbright.
Here.
Don Garvin.
Honey.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
China Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton. Eric Allen Watts.
Honey.
We have quorum.
We have a quorum. Purposes, again, to discuss the redistricting plan. And I understand was there an amendment to the agenda to include a resolution?
Yes.
Okay, you want to move?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to amend the agenda to include the resolution in front of you concerning the principles of redistricting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on amending the agenda?
amend the agenda so that this can be passed?
To consider it.
To include this on the agenda for
It's just the
discussion.
principles, it's not an actual redistricting map or model.
Mr. Henry?
Yes, and be mindful, that that whatever work comes out of the subcommittee would go to the full rules committee prior to going to full council. It would be the process by which it would work.
Did I have a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor, signify by, I'm sorry, Ms. Fishinghawk?
I got a question about number 6, because I've been looking up redistricting on the web, and it talks about identifying and coordinating regional interests.
Ms. Fishinghawk, this is on discussion on amending the agenda.
Oh, okay.
This is a vote just to add, just to add?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes or no to add, okay.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr.
For discussion only?
Yes.
Can we get this
Discussion only, is that correct, Kara? Only?
Well,
Okay.
we discussed last month that we would take action. Because we're getting into the timeline that Dawn and
Do you
I
want
talked about.
discussion and possible action, or you want?
I would hope we just voted up or down today.
Okay. Well, and this is the way the process with a subcommittee should work. Is that if you amend the agenda, you discuss it. And then you vote favorably or disfavorably on it. If it fails, it dies. If it passes, it would be an item on the rules committee later on this month. You don't skip the committee process. You're in a subcommittee. So subcommittee to committee to council.
Okay, everyone clear? Mr. Thornton?
I guess, point of order, I just need to make sure I am clear. We're just voting whether to even discuss
Amend the
this.
agenda.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. We will consider this resolution adopting principles for redistricting. Yes. Ms.
Could you
Fisher?
send something? I got this late Friday evening, and I ended up not putting it off till Saturday. So could you send something over to, I guess, whoever prepared it, and let them know that we got a 10-day rule?
That we
I
have-
keep getting stuff at the last minute, and they're cognizant of the fact that they've got 10 days and they still choose to ignore it. And it gets old after a while.
Sure will. Do you want to consider, do you want to do something with this? Do you want to table it or something? Is that what you're
To be
saying?
honest, I would like to table it,
I'll second that.
just because they know, and they're asking us to, get an independent outside firm, and that's why I really would.
Okay, and you second?
Okay.
All in favor of tabling till next month? Is that right? Ms.
Yeah,
Fisher?
yeah, bring it forward.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Roll call. Yes is in favor of tabling.
Julia Coates.
No.
Brett, Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishing Hawk,
Yes.
Meredith Braley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, a yes vote is to table.
Yes, is the table,
Yes.
is correct.
Tina Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Bozard.
Yes.
You have 12 yes, 4 no.
12 to table and 4 no. So we will consider it the next subcommittee. Okay, Mr. Hember. Oh, I'm sorry.
And would it be possible that we remind everyone, not just the executive branch, but everybody, that we have to see these 10 days ahead so that we're knowledgeable of what we're going to discuss when we get in this room?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a possibility we could, I don't know, I agree with Councilor Fishing Hawk. It keeps creeping up on us, and there's just more and more coming to us like the day of a meeting. And they want you to consider it and pass it, and it's, to me, not a good way to do business. Especially when we have these rules in place.
We do have a 10-day under our rules of procedure. So yes, it is up to us chairmen or chairpersons to either say yes, we'll accept it, or no, we won't.
And I mean nothing for or against whatever's in front of us today. It's just,
You want time to consider.
we just need time to consider everything, and I would think that 10 days is a fair amount of time. They could get that ready before then.
Ma'am, point well taken. Mr. Lonston?
Madam Speaker, as it stands right now, the 10-day rule is something that, if it doesn't meet the 10-day requirements, the chair of the committee has the discretion to accept it,
Yes.
keep it on the agenda. And this isn't, I'm not making this a motion, it's something to consider. Maybe just as a matter of course, if the 10-day rule's not met, it can't get on the agenda, but we can bring it to the body and we could waive the 10-day rule, because there may be circumstances where we all say, certainly we need to do this. That's just a suggestion. We can take it up when we visit our rules, but
Yes, and I think last term we more or less followed that practice, that if something, for instance, a grant application may come in for last minute, and that is something we need to consider. So it's up to the body to waive that rule, and it's a very good point. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hembry? Oh, is there any further discussion? Mr. Hembry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairperson. What I'm passing out here are county maps of Cherokee and Mays County with zip codes, county roads, and population by zip code. At the previous subcommittee meeting, there was a vote that said the direction of this committee would be to create 15 separate districts. And in that mindset, we need to try to make them obviously as equal as possible and with the best idea of representation. One amendment that I would recommend, or would just even suggest, we're all familiar with the first map that was considered by the previous council that divided up into 15 separate districts. In that meeting, or in that map, Mays County had only one representative. Well, we would want to have the opportunity to better represent the people of Mays County who enjoy a 2-councilor district right now. My attempt in that is to divide Mays County, creating a district that would basically start at scenic I-40 and run south, and take in that portion of Wagner County that is in the Cherokee Nation, and northern Cherokee County, in particularly the communities of Peggs and Lowry.
Excuse me, Todd,
Yeah.
you said I-40, you mean 412?
412, oh, I'm sorry. Did I say scenic I-40? I-40 is very scenic, but it's not the road that I was referring to. Didn't want to discourage the good people of Sequoia County.
That was a good try.
Good try, Todd.
So, 412, scenic 412 in south. This map has gone through much debate and much changes, and we know that we're not going to come up with a system that is perfect. However, I believe that if we continue down the same road that we've started, which is 15 separate districts, creating this Southern Mays Northern Cherokee district would be a step in the right direction. Do the numbers add up? Well, that's one thing that we're going to look at. And believe you me that this is a subcommittee, more of a working group. I throw that idea out there and say what have you as a suggestion.
Any questions, comments? Ms. Fulbright?
This plan lets Cherokee County have 3, but it's going up into Mays County, right?
Correct.
And then Mays County's at 1 for the remainder. Okay.
Right.
I just want to be clear.
Or it depends on your point of view that allows Mays to have 2. Yeah. If you live in Mays County, you'll say they got 2. If you live in Cherokee County, you'll say they have 3. But yeah.
Where's the overall win?
The overall map.
Ms. Fulbright, were you finished?
Yes.
Okay, Bill John?
And I realize we're identifying these as Peggs and Lowry. How about the portions of Kansas, Skelly, and Oaks Mission that are north of Lowry?
It would go to the Cherokee County border. I just said in general, Lowry's and Peggs. We would pick a dividing line in North Cherokee County. You can look at your big map up here. Let's say, for instance, you could take HC 82 over to Highway 10, and all that would be north could be there. You can include the Scraper community, any other population base that is in northern Cherokee County. Now, are we married to any particular boundary? No. That's one thing that you all would want to decide.
Continue, Mr. Baker.
I realize, and this is more for our map man, Mr. Justice.
Mr. Justice, you want to come forward, please?
Have you taken it a step further and looked at like school districts where the election board knows that if this person lives in this location, that they vote in this school district, to where maybe we could divide at school district lines?
We actually looked at school district lines, but the problem that we ran into is we've gotten a way of referencing what individual in the counties. Let me rephrase that. In the counties where we have good 911 addresses, where we can pinpoint where an individual lives, we could do something like that. Look at school districts.
Okay.
But
What county do you not have good 911?
About half of them. Nowata. I'm looking at your map back there that you have on the wall. Mays had Iffy, Adair, Sequoia, McIntosh, Wagner, Southern Delaware County. It's just kind of hit and miss all over. If we were able to pinpoint them, we could possibly try to.
Let's say somebody in Adair County. How would you determine whether they lived in Adair County for car tag?
Yes, their zip code.
But you can do that.
Yeah.
And whether they had good 911 or not. Same way in Rogers County. I mean, if you had their physical address, then it would be time consuming, but you do it for the tag office.
We do it for the tag office, but the majority of our tag address verifications are for the border counties.
Yeah.
Mostly for Wagner and Muskogee counties. We do some for Rogers and Tulsa County. They're pretty hit and miss on those, but the majority of them that we do, McIntosh, Muskogee, and Wagner counties. Muskogee County, very rarely do we ever have to do driving directions from the individual. Wagner and McIntosh County, nearly 100% of the time, we have to physically talk to the individual to get driving directions to their location.
Okay, but I mean, could we not merge the county's election list to the Cherokee election list to determine what school districts people are registered in or vote in or whatever?
What? I guess I don't know what county
Well,
election is.
we've got two problems here. One, we've got a problem of saying, okay, Mays County is going to take a portion of Cherokee County. But then we have the problem of registering or figuring out who votes where.
Right.
And I don't think that self-identifying is the fair way to do it. Because I'm telling you, if we give Northern Cherokee County and they got a choice, they're going to say, I'm Cherokee County. And they're going to want to stay in Cherokee County and not vote in Mays County if given a choice.
Right.
But I'm just saying, for all fairness, we need to find some division to where we really know that if you live on this side of the line, you actually vote in whatever district, and if you live outside that line, you're at large or something different.
Right.
And whether it be school district lines to where we can cross-reference with at least the county election. I mean, we have the registered voters that are Cherokee. The majority of them are going to be registered in regular elections because the ones that don't vote neither one. And it's just what you're used to doing, and if you're a voter, you're a voter, and if you're not, you're not. And so if we could find something that we could cross-reference, I mean, they've got a database that says everybody that's in Lost City District. And if we could match that with our database, then we would get a good count of who's voting where and what district to put them to. But like I say, even if we slice up a county, we've got a major problem of getting the people that live in north of this highway and west of that one to vote where they're supposed to vote.
Definitely. Yeah, we haven't even tried to attempt that yet.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Baker, the other Baker, Jack?
Yes. No comment.
Jack, did you have a comment?
No.
Oh, okay. Mr. Garvin?
Yes, I was wanting to know where the Rayleigh estate is on this one map.
What? Which one?
In reference to 412 Scenic, where's your ranch located?
Where's my house located?
Yes.
It's west of Locust Grove, about 3 miles and a quarter of a mile south. It's right between Scenic 412 and the Turnpike. Turn 412.
It's south of Scenic 412.
Okay, that's the main one. Thank you.
It's Fishing Hawk.
Can you make us a copy of the map that you had that showed the changes, so I can compare it to this one? The one you had the little lines drawn on and
Oh,
everything.
on my little lines?
Yeah, I talked to Don and he said he'd kind of like to see it too.
Okay. Let me make copies of my little
Yeah.
lines. It's not to scale.
While he's making copies of that particular map, any question, Ms. Tina?
Well, no.
Any other questions or comments? Are you ready to continue?
At your service.
Okay, continue.
Well, if that is the will of the body, what we will do is have that new district in southern Mays, northern Cherokee, whatever lines we decide to choose on based on whether the numbers work or not. The district that is now listed District 1 would not have Wagner County in it, or we may even take part of Wagner. It just depends on what y'all want to do. You would throw Fort Gibson into that district. Basically, then you would have Tahlequah divided, probably down Muskogee Avenue, and you would have Tahlequah South would be a district, and a little bit north of probably 51. And then you would have this district.
Go over that
Can
one
you
more
hold
time.
just a moment, Mr. Hoskins?
You're talking about the proposal you're discussing on this district that covers Mays and part of Cherokee.
Correct.
Are you saying that there's a borderline that runs through the city of Tahlequah, the southerly border of that district?
Well, no, no, not on that district at all. Okay. What I was saying is that you have two other districts in Cherokee County that you're going to need to divide.
The two remaining seats, which will be their own districts.
Correct.
Okay, I see.
And it has been suggested Muskogee Avenue being the divide line on that, depending on the numbers.
Ms. Jordan?
This is directed towards Todd. Could you just repeat one more time what you said just before you asked that question, and how you might cut that up, form the two new districts?
With the two new districts, is you could, you put Fort Gibson into what I would call the Holbert district. Okay, is that what we
that's
talked
what
about?
I wanted to
Yeah,
know.
and then it'd be up to whether you all wanted to put in a little bit of Wagner there or not. Probably not, because the numbers are going to need to probably go to that Mays County district.
And then where would the dividing line be? You went ahead and you thought Muskogee would be the...
Yeah, it had been suggested, that Muskogee Avenue, would be the dividing line to divide up the city of Tahlequah between those other two.
Any other questions before we move on? This map that we just handed is the one that Todd has these lines, and it references his suggestions on dividing this, Mays and Cherokee.
And likewise, that's just one central. That is one district in the center of our jurisdiction. I am open. Right now would be the time if anyone wanted to talk about their individual district, whether they think there's a district that's too heavy, too light. This is basically a work product of the previous council, and we've modified it some. All right. You're not married to this map. If you think there's a better way to divide your area, this is the time to talk about it. And obviously your districts better than I do, or maybe even the previous council. But so, that's why we're here.
Mr. Thornton?
I don't understand these two maps that were just handed out to us.
Okay.
My district is the same, but I went from 64,600 to 59,98, and it's the same district. Chanel's went up by 100. Don Garvin's went from 6,000 to 7,000, 6,700 to 7,000. Is there something included? Is there something extra in here?
Mr. Justice just handed me that there's a note that said previously approved map by council. I don't put the numbers in there. They calculate the numbers and they put them in there. So the answer, I don't know the answer to your question.
What was your question again, Mr. Thornton?
Okay, so look at District 7 on this map. Got 6,487.47. District 7 on this map has 5,998.95.
Which has more accurate?
Which one's more accurate? You know, it's the same amount of district. But the numbers are right.
Let's go back and verify that. Part of that is they are different dates.
Right. It's the difference in the dates of when we pulled the data from 06 to 07.
So which one this is the most recent?
Yes, ma'am.
Numbers?
This map here that's called revised proposed districts, this is the map that the council approved last year. That's why the note is up there in the top right-hand corner. These are 06 numbers. The other map that you're looking at there that says proportionment citizenship example 2, these are 07, November 15th of 07 numbers
So
that we're using.
when we looked at this originally with the redistricting plan, that's what the lower number represents that you were referring. That's when
It's the original, and this one's
yes.
today.
And then we updated that the last time when we started talking about this.
And the Cherokees are thriving.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Gotta get that straight.
Mr. Hoskins?
Mr. Thornton had my question, so I'll withdraw.
Ms. Jordan?
Well, I think that a little bit of what he was talking about goes to my question. Where do these numbers come from?
I'm sorry.
The numbers that you have on this map?
All of this information is derived straight out of the registration system. And what we do is we pull the information based on their address, their city, state, and zip, and then we do analysis, and then it also is as identified in the system of their district. And then we also do what we have raw data, what we call raw data, and that's just simply taking it as it's entered. And then after we do that, we do some post correction to clean up any address variances, and we try to do some additional analysis to correct any potential bad addresses.
Do we, Todd, take like, when you say you use zip codes, take for example these bordering counties that don't, whole counties are not within our jurisdictional boundaries?
Correct.
How are you splitting off the people that are represented by the at-large folks versus the in-district folks?
Historically, what had happened was there were certain zip codes that were determined, and I'm not sure exactly how they were determined, that when I started working in IT, there were certain zip codes that were associated with the registration districts that were assigned. So if I came in and I registered, as soon as they entered my registration information, it auto-populated my district based on the zip code that was provided in the system.
So we actually don't know that in the bordering
Now
counties, we don't really know who lives inside the district versus who is at large?
Not beyond a shadow of a doubt, no.
I mean, we can't go to membership and get the addresses and then plot them through your geodating deal?
That's what we have tried to do on most of those. The reason I say beyond a shadow of a doubt, is P.O. boxes. And for most of the, like Tulsa and Washington County, we have pretty good geocoded information based on 911 data. So if there's a good 911 system in the county, we can pretty well plot it out and tell you if they live inside or outside the district. And that's typically what we do with GIS on the daily calls that we get from the tag office. Where we have issues are like Adair, Delaware County, Ottawa County, where 911 is not the greatest. And so everybody gets lumped into a block of addresses inside that district. So the only caveat to that would be P.O. boxes. And that winds up being several thousands of tribal citizens that have P.O. boxes in and around Tulsa, Washington County, those what we would call border counties on the jurisdiction.
So like if we wanted to, you could provide us with the addresses, I don't care about the names, but with the addresses that show a household with certain number of membership lives within a certain district.
Yes.
Well, see, my whole problem with this is these numbers just don't seem to coincide many times with other things that we're doing, like how we give out educational money, how we figure some other things. It just does, these numbers just don't seem to work. And I'm kind of wondering about the origin of these numbers now, because I see some districts like where we have maybe 3 times or 4 times what other districts have, just as an example, voting, yet their districts are being shown on this map as having the same number of people. Now that just does it just mean everybody in Cherokee County just wants a right to vote? I don't know. Why would everybody in Cherokee County want to vote, but nobody in the next county wants to vote? That doesn't make any sense to me. And so I want to see these numbers somewhat verified to make sure we're working with accurate numbers before we actually break down the districting process, even though what was proposed today is workable. I mean, I guess it's a win-win for Mays and Cherokee. We can all say we won. Somebody can say they got to keep 2 districts. Somebody can say they got a 3rd seat, but they're actually, it's kind of about the same. I think it's kind of a wash. But I just question. I saw Bill John bring that map in, and I wonder how, because I think those figures probably are real accurate of the growing membership, how we gave out that money the other day, but it doesn't seem to coincide with these numbers here. Does that make sense? So I'm just wondering where these numbers came from, when those numbers, we were looking at that last week, the numbers on that map just doesn't show the same as what these numbers are showing. Because you would think if mom and dad are voters now, or not voters, but members now, and they've got a household of kids, this should be about the same as that, but it's not. That's not the way it's working.
And I can try and
So
address
where are all these little orphans coming from? I guess what I'm asking.
Well,
Mr. Enlow, can you?
part of and this would be my assumption on some of this, and I'll just try to state facts as much as I can. The data that you guys have, and we may, in thinking about it now, I don't think we've actually had the opportunity to discuss this with several of the new council members. This data that you have is proportioned. So what that means is, for example, a zip code that's in Washington County bridges Washington County and Osage County. And so what we did in looking at that, there in that zip code there were 6,000 people that resided in the zip code. So rather than assigning all 6,000 to the Washington County or the Keeler district, what we did is, when we proportioned that, we looked at that and said, look at the zip code, and let's say 50% of the zip codes in Washington County and 50% is in Osage County. So basically, based on the geographic size of the zip code in the county, we prorated the population. So if 50% of 6,000 we assigned to Washington County and clipped that zip code so that entire zip code, that 50% of the zip code, was shown in total for Washington County. So we prorated the population based on the percentage of the zip code that resided inside the district.
But we don't guess, Todd, with car tags. You can tell them within 50 feet whether they're eligible for a car tag or not. And if we can be that specific with a car tag, can't we be that specific with the numbers for redistricting?
And it will take 3 years. The reason I say that is because we get phone calls to GIS every day that says, we're having a problem, we don't know for sure if they live in or outside the district. Let's give us your address. Well, there's not a good 911 address. So we actually physically take driving directions over the phone. Okay, I'm on 412, I head south and I go to this direction, I make a right on this avenue, I'm on this house. So the reason I say it could take a long time is because for us to do that for the tag office, a lot of occasions we do very detailed individual driving directions to that facility, which we can't very readily do and trying to do the analysis to provide you with some data of saying, here's where our citizens live. Now, where there's good 911 data, you betcha. I can tell you if you live on the south side of the road, north side of the road.
And it wouldn't take 3 years.
Right.
Well, I would suggest with the good 911 data that we attempt to do that and be as accurate with that information as we are when we give out car tags. Because where the members live is just as important to this reapportioning as whether they're eligible for car tags or not.
The other thing I wanted to point out too, the data, as I stated earlier, comes straight from registration. So anytime we do any type of analysis based on districting or looking at our population studies and where trendings are going for patient services or whatever it may be, we're basing that off of registration data. The car tag funds themselves, the schools have to sign up and register their students. So in the past, some of the superintendents were not very diligent in turning their data in, and so they missed out on the counts. And so that could be the case, for example, let's say in Washington County, they could have missed several hundred kids in their count just because either the superintendent didn't do it or the students failed to notify the school to let them know. Basically, what I'm saying is we're basing the data off of the legal data that we have with registration, whereas for the example of the car tag funds, those are self-identifying between the school and the students, and if they don't do that properly or timely, we could be missing students in that count. So that could be the difference between some of the data that you have.
Well, but here I'm looking at two maps that Mr. Thornton, I believe, Councilor Thornton just pointed this out. There's a 500 membership difference in the very same area because of when we pull these maps. I just think that if we're going to do this, which we by Constitution are the body to do this redistricting, we should be working with accurate numbers. And I question whether these numbers are accurate just based on the information we've been given today.
Mr. Hoskin, did you have a response to that, perhaps? Or?
It's along the lines of that.
Oh, okay. I have.
And I mean no fault on Todd's group. I'm just saying when we start this process, should we not have good numbers? Because doesn't that make all the difference in the world that you have the right numbers for your membership when you start this process? If you're working off of bogus numbers, doesn't that screw this whole thing up?
Are you finished, Ms.?
Yes.
Mr. Soap and then Mr. Hoskins.
Yeah, defer my question.
What did you say? No?
So defer my question.
Okay. Mr. Hoskin?
Yeah, and thank you, Madam Speaker. When Councilor Jordan is talking about car tags, she's talking about two things. One is that the numbers reflected in our recent distribution don't seem to line up with the population figures we get. And then secondly, make sure you understand that when we determine who gets a car tag, we make these Herculean efforts to find out who lives where. So there's really two issues with respect to car tags. And what I'm hearing is that these Herculean efforts, if we apply them to registration, is going to take 3 years.
Not necessarily registration.
I mean, not registration. Well, I'm sorry.
For purposes of redistricting and looking at allocations, it would be very monumental for us to go back and recontact and re-verify the address with the citizen.
And so I wonder a couple of things, Madam Speaker. Number one, if we see there's this inherent, I think, problem with the population numbers, maybe we need to be a lot more tolerant of how much of a deviation we have when we structure these districts. In other words, we shouldn't be too afraid that there's a pretty big deviation between districts when the underlying numbers themselves may lack the reliability we'd like. And then secondly, I wonder if we go forward with redistricting, but we have numbers that have some inherent deficiencies, don't we expose ourselves to liability that we didn't do it right? And I appreciate that it could take so long to do it right that we may wind up with some liability because we didn't do it, because we waited. But I wondered, put you on the spot here, Todd, but I wonder if you could speak to this. If our numbers, if we have an inherent problem with how we got these numbers, I mean, aren't we exposing ourselves to a challenge that we just didn't do it right because we could have more accurately figured out these numbers? Because I don't want to go into this process, reach finality, and then not be able to hold up to a challenge.
Mr. Henry, you want to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Well, to answer your question briefly, yes. I mean, you need to make sure that the data that you're working with is the most accurate data that is possible, okay? And that is why we will work hand in hand with Todd's group, the Geodata group, to do everything that is reasonable to make sure that we're working with actual members of the population of the counties. I remember last term there was a major discussion on Ms. Callan Watts' district, of whether that was accurately counted or not. And I think that's something that, you know, now that we're readdressing this issue, that we talk about and that we be open with. You know, the principles in redistricting, you know, outlined in Ms. Callan Watts' resolution. I mean, they're, you know, those come from case law. I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to make sure that that you work with good numbers, that you determine the community interest, that you make sure that that this is basically the best for your constituency, the Cherokee Nation as a whole, and those factors you need to always be cognizant of. Should we have liability? Yes. That's why we need to make sure that, you know, are we going to have an absolute 100% sure that this is absolutely accurate? No, because that wouldn't be reasonable. We could spend the assets of the Cherokee Nation trying to figure this out, but we do the best we can, and as long as it passes, we do our due diligence and we get numbers that a reasonable person could rely on. I think that would be appropriate.
Just brief follow-up. Mr. Henry, do you feel, based on the process that you've seen to derive these numbers, do you feel like that this is a reasonable estimation of what the population is, or do you have concerns that the process needs to be more refined, or we need to make more efforts to identify who lives where?
I have not, in my limited knowledge of the population of the Cherokee Nation, nothing has been shown to me that would say that these numbers are greatly out of whack. Okay, obviously I'm not privy, I'm not privy to the data some of you have in your other committees, i.e., card tag distribution for schools, health allocations for money. Basically, my involvement with the population of the Cherokee Nation have centered around this issue and this issue only. And there's nothing out of Todd's group that would make me discount those numbers. Now, we've heard, from everybody's own voice that, yeah, we're doing the best we can. So.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Todd.
Bill John, and then Mr. Calwan, and then Mr. Soto.
Yeah. And, when we did this last year, we froze a point in time so that we weren't looking at a moving target. So that, let's choose this point in time so that new registrations, old people dying, this, that, and the other, so that we would have something solid to work with. And maybe if we'd started then with the 3-year task, that we could be done a year before the next election. And quite frankly, I think this is more important than locking down whether they live 50 feet outside the Cherokee Nation for a tag. I think it's more important on the voting. We have 2 at-large people that are representing those that do not live within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. And if it takes time, if it takes resources, then I think we need to not only be diligent in only counting the numbers that are within the boundaries of the 14, but I think we need to be diligent in finding boundaries that don't take 3 years to decide whether you're going to vote in Cherokee County or Mays County. If that means going to school districts, if it means going to county commissioner districts, if it means, working with the state and their database. But we're making this way too complicated. And, there are some folks in northern Cherokee County that truly identify with Locust Grove. There is no doubt in my mind. The folks anywhere around Iron Post, sometimes they don't know which one they are. And most of the time they identify with the north. There's, part of Locust Grove School District comes fairly far down into Cherokee County. And that's not, those folks would have no problem. My question is, how do we identify everybody north of this line are going to vote in Mays County, and everybody south is going to vote in Cherokee County? And then we get into the Tulsa deal of, I think if you're at large, you ought to vote at large and not vote within the district. And I think, resources need to be spent to see that truly happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Calmore?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This question is for Mr. Hembry. If we do not move forward with redistricting, then under the current situation, there's precedence under Nick Lay's case for either Don Garvin or even one of our constituents to sue for our representation. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would, if I was clairvoyant, I would say no matter what plan we come up with here, there's going to be a challenge to it. We're basically building the dossier for the courts to consider. But right now we have what we have. The 9 districts as they are outlaid there, and any one of the council member would have standing to bring challenge to say that is not a proportional representation of the Cherokee people. That's within your right to do. The council is currently undergoing a task to try to better that representation, and it's my hope that the council continues to move forward in some fashion to put this to a vote to the council and see what happens within a reasonably short period of time.
Mr. Soap and then Ms. Fishinghawk. And we have about 8 minutes.
Quick question. This data that we said it's tribal membership registration, not voter registration, right?
That is correct. That's total citizenship registration. And Mr. Baker commented earlier, we locked the date as of 6/29/06 the last time we did this, and we froze it at that point so we wouldn't have controversies about which time, which date. When we started this again, we extracted the data again, and it was done on 11/15/07. We have both data sets still available and locked out, so we can, if it's the council's wish to go back to the 6/29/06, we still have that data set aside. But we have both of them set aside, and if you choose to do another date, we can lock it again at a certain point.
Yes, thank you.
We have Ms. Fishinghawk and then Mr. Baker.
I've just got a question. I don't know how to do this, Madam Speaker, but how do we ask people, or can you poll a council, or say if we're pretty close to, see how close we are to the end? Is that possible?
To the end of?
To getting closer to deciding, so we'll kind of know, if we think we'll have it down a month from now, can we ask people, are they pretty close to being agreeable to this?
Individual council person?
Yeah, can you do that?
Yeah. Ask away.
Can anybody say if they're close or not, or okay with their districts, or they're looking better?
Ms. Calmore?
Thank you. I would vote. My preference is 2.4, example 2.4, wherever it's in our stack. But I would also support example 2, which was passed out today.
Which one's example?
Okay. You have it.
Okay.
Anyone else want to comment about their district? Mr. Hoskins?
Well, I'm fine with my district on the various maps I've seen. Of course, my district doesn't change. But the bigger concern I have is that we reach a conclusion in which we agree on the underlying data, which might be very elusive. But it seems to me that, and I say this without knowing the precise answer, but it seems to me we need to reach some principles about how we get this data together and what is our population for redistricting purposes. I think we need to do it for legislative reasons because we all need to be of one mind in terms of what the underlying data is, but we probably also need to do it for legal reasons and show that we might show a court someday that we really did have a meeting of the minds about what the population was, and here's why we compiled the data in that way. Here's why we decided to use the various factors that were discussed earlier. And I haven't seen us do that yet, and I say that not knowing the precise answer about how we should formulate it, but I think I'd like to see a document that at least shows, that articulates how the data was compiled. It's been explained, I think, nicely, orally, but I wondered if maybe you could give us a bit of a roadmap about how that data was compiled, because that'll help us talk to each other, help us talk to constituents, and ultimately help us build a legislative record that we can defend. Thank you.
Mr.
I was just going to say, I believe we can do that. I was asking David if we did that the last time, but I don't think we did. Originally, in the initial meetings, Ms. Umateski, who's the tribal registrar, was joining in with us and answering questions, and there as a technical consultant. But basically, we've analyzed the data the exact same way we did before. But she was there originally, but we can put together a document that outlines it.
You want to continue?
Sure, and if Mr. Enlow comes back to us with that document, we can discuss it and ultimately maybe even approve it, as this is how we think the data should be compiled, and tweak it if we need to, and then also pick that date that should be frozen in time, and we could do both of those actions at once, but we need to see the document first. I know you'll get it to us before our next meeting. Thank you.
One of his goals is to establish a sound legislative history for future use.
I agree with that, yes.
Okay. Ms. Fishing Hawk and then Mr. Baker.
Ms. Fishing Hawk.
Okay, you want to go ahead, John?
That example 2 that Tara said she could live with, I wish everybody would take a look at the Cherokee County map that Todd passed out earlier. If you'll look at what the proposed district for me is, the county roads are on that map, and you're going to see that there's 100,000 acres in my district that is getting proportion to population that has no people in it. I mean, it's the Old Bonham Ranch, it's the river bottom, it's the some other large ranches, and although it shows that I've got 7,500 people in that representative district, I'm guessing we're talking less than 1,000. Would I be accurate in that, Todd?
As far as the number, I would have to guess on that, but I would say your assumptions as far as the geography and the land contained within it, it's definitely, and that's one of the drawbacks to doing proportion data, is you have the similarities of, if you proportion data based on the percentage of the zip code, you run the risk of miscalculating or miscounting residents within that area.
And thus Todd's last example, that would give some of that wasteland, if you would, or farmland, ranch land, hunting land that has not a great deal of population in it, if we gave it to Mays County and then gave me a district that picked up half of Tahlequah, Briggs, Keys, Cookson, that area, I think we would be coming a whole lot closer to true representative districts if that's the what we're actually trying to do.
That question, Mr. Baker, or just a suggestion?
Well, it just, it's a point that maybe you might look a little harder at Todd's hand-drawn map, because when we really got to looking at what it was going to do to the district in Cherokee County, I mean, it's going to be cheap for me to run, but and I know all these pig trails, but there's not many folks. But anyway.
Mr. Todd, the tall Todd, can you...
Tall Todd.
Limbo.
You guys call me the good-looking Todd.
Now there's a difference. Another difference.
The elder Todd.
Can you, at Mr. Hoskins' request, can you have that information by the next monthly meeting?
You bet.
All right, and can you get it to us 10 days before the next meeting, perhaps?
Yep.
I appreciate that, and I know the council will.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that hard to actually develop that.
And one more, it's time to adjourn, but Ms. Jordan, you had a question.
Well, it seems like the most changes that have been made concern Mays County, which would be Chris and Meredith, and Cherokee County, which is myself and Bill John, and to some extent Dawn's district. I don't care, for example, 2, not for myself, because it's fine for me. I don't mind running in this area because I've already run in this area. But I just don't see why we're having Councilman Fraley run all the way from Mays County all the way down into Muskogee. And it would appear, and I think there's been some diligent effort made by the 4 council people between Mays County and Cherokee County, that we try to do a more contiguous division so that she would at least not have to run in 4 counties. And I too think probably, and I'm, to be quite honest with you, if the numbers are verified, I'm fine with this one that Todd brought in today. And that was kind of my understanding before this meeting, that was kind of where we were headed. I still think I don't like it because I'm having to move to other counties, but I can live with it, and I think everybody else that's going to be directly impacted, if these numbers are correct, probably can live with it. And that was trying to meet a middle ground so that we could move on with this, because we knew that these other, under this proposed, the old proposal, everybody else was dividing up counties, and it seemed to be a workable solution. So it appeared that in the middle, we were the ones that were going to have to be the ones to say, okay, let's give a little and take a little, and let's try to divide this up in a fair manner. So it appears to me that what Todd has come up with may be the best that we can come up with based on what information we have. I would like to see those numbers verified, but it's livable. It's a livable deal. I'll just have to get to know some more people.
I'm just going to say,
And I'm not trying to speak for the other 3, but
Do you want to make a motion to accept this? And you're comfortable with the numbers? I haven't seen the numbers, of course.
Madam Chairman, what I would recommend is this, that you allow me to run the numbers on this district, have Geodata do a new map with this proposed new district on it, and we bring it and take a look at it. Likewise, between now and the next meeting, if each counselor could contact me, in person or by email, and give me ideas of what you like or dislike about this proposed map or about your district. Let's try to incorporate it. Let's try to fix all problems. Let's try to make everybody happy. We'll do our very best to do that if we can, and keep all keep it all fair. So let me run a map with a new proposed district, and if all the counselors could contact me about their district concerns, I would try to incorporate that also.
Mr. Baker, we've got to adjourn this meeting.
On your map, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. And then
On-
Ms. Fulbright, and then Mr. Thornton, and that's it.
On your map, what is
Oh,
Fort
Mr.
Gibson?
Wrangley.
What does Fort Gibson do?
Sorry.
Fort Gibson goes to Holbert.
Okay, it was just.
Yeah, I know, I changed, I had different, people say different things, so.
Okay, just for the purpose of discussion and to move this thing along, I'm gonna move that, and you're gonna bring better numbers and all that. I'm gonna move this map to the regular meeting.
Second.
And that's form of motion.
Just one question.
Yes.
I want to make sure now, Meredith,
The
you're
one
taking,
with Todd's lines drawn in it. Is that the one you're
Yes,
talking about?
yes, ma'am.
and you're taking Wagner, Wagner County.
Well, I will consider it after
I
I
mean,
see the
it's
numbers.
considered,
Yeah,
okay.
after you see the number.
Okay.
And it's for discussion, just so we can move it to the next committee.
His motion is to accept map number 2.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If
Yes.
you do, okay, Mr. Thornton was first.
I think we already had a person sitting over there named Miss Fishenhoff that asked for a count of who would accept this example too. And that's what was going around the room about, and we hadn't got that question answered yet. And I think by show of hands, if we had somebody to say, how many accept example two, then we'll have a show of hands.
This figure on point of information, so like, this Councilman John Baker's motion, this map?
Yes.
Okay, with the
lines
handwritten
drawn
corrections,
in it.
Handwritten correction.
which is, are we designating it as map?
Handwritten.
Okay, that's fine. I heard
For
example two.
clarification, it says map here with Todd's lines drawn in it. That is map number 3.
And that's what the motion is for point of clarification?
As a second, I'm okay with that.
Yes. I'll write number 3 in the corner.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Question. Is this next rules meeting?
Yes.
You get next rule.
Yes.
Regular rule.
End of March.
Aye.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
No. Okay, motion carries. And I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
David?
Yeah, y'all can contact me about your district.